the question came with regard to choosing a time from which to start counting the dates, the Sahaba and at that time all the Ashara Mubashara, the 10 who had been promised Jannah except Abu Bakr, they were all alive. The Badriyin, most of them were alive. So all the Akabirin of the Sahaba, all the ulama of the Sahaba were all alive. And Sayyidina Umar used to take their advice in everything that he did. So when they were picking this date and when they were discussing about what date to pick, they did not pick the date of birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They did not pick the date of his death, of his passing away. Now you might say, well, the date of birth of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are several narrations, so we don't know exactly which day he was born. And this is quite natural. I mean, on a side note, let me mention this. Let me mention actually two things. Firstly, the fact that the Arabs had a calendar and they had the months. Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically mentioned months. Allah said, Shahrul Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. So Allah mentioned the name of the month of Ramadan. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the months. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned also the months when it was, when warfare was prohibited, when it was prohibited to hunt and so on. So the months were known. But the Arabs did not have it seems funny, but that was the case. They had the months, but they didn't have an annual calendar. So they knew the month, but they didn't know the year. So they had this way of remembering years based on some significant year, some significant incident which happened in their history, and they would temporarily count from that year. So for example, the Amul Fil, as it is called, the year of the elephant, is when Abraha came with the intention of demolishing the Kaaba, and we know the story and we know what happened. So they used to count from that year. They would say so many years after Amul Fil, the year of the elephant. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born in that year, the year of Amul Fil. But they did not record the day because first of all it was not a custom for the Arabs to record any days. They didn't actually record any days. Secondly, if you just think about this, when Rasulullah was born, he was not that the messenger of Allah was being born. He was a messenger of Allah. He was being born, but except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Malaika, nobody knew that at the time of his birth. So for the people, the child was born. And this child also was born in a home where his child had no father. Father had passed away before his birth. They were not very well to do, even though they came from the Musa, from the nobility of the Quraysh, but they were not particularly well to do. So it was not a significant event in the eyes of the world because it was not anything to record. So they didn't know to record it. Later on, when people tried to recollect and so on, somebody said it was maybe it was Rabiul Awwal, somebody said some other month and so on. So there are several narrations with regard to that. But with regard to his passing away, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with regard to his death, there is no doubt. Because at that time, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very much known and his death was a very major event, the biggest event in the history of the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the biggest tragedy to befall us. And it's a good thing to remember this because sometimes the events of the world are such that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect this Ummah. We seem to hear only bad news. May Allah protect this Ummah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect those people who are undergoing suffering in different parts of the world for no reason other than that they say La ilaha illallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's protection, make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should protect them and may Allah protect you and your country as well. So, in such circumstances, when we are being faced with news of tragedy after tragedy, it's a very good nurse of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was also nursed by an African lady, and they went to visit her. And when they went to visit her, obviously she started crying when the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was mentioned. So Abu Bakr and Umar they said to her, don't cry, this is the qadr of Allah, and everyone, all of us have to die one day. So she said, I'm not crying because Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam died. He said, I knew he had to die one day, he died. He said, I'm crying, she said, I'm crying because with his death, the connection between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and us has stopped. She said, Allah does not talk to us anymore. The connection of body has stopped. He said, that is why I'm crying. It's not because of the death of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that is the biggest tragedy, and it's a very important thing to remind ourselves because nothing can be bigger than that. So alhamdulillah, billahi ta'ala, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His protection and for consoling the hearts of the bereaved. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's death also, even though it was well known and the date was recorded and everything had to do with it is well recorded, alhamdulillah, there is no difference of opinion about that. The Sahaba did not even choose that day as the day to begin counting time from. What did they choose? They chose the date when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered Medina. And that date obviously was also known because it was a big event, people knew. So for the Sahaba, Hijra was literally the point from which time began. That was the kind of significance they gave to the Hijra. And that's why we have this calendar of the Hijri calendar. Now what is this Hijra? As I mentioned, the Hijra is of course the actual journey, the actual migration of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Makkah to Medina. But much more importantly, and this is the point that I want to remind myself and leave with you, much more importantly, Hijra is the migration from the disobedience of Allah to the obedience of Allah. Migration from a place where disobedience of Allah is happening to a place where obedience of Allah is happening. Migrating personally in our lives from disobedience of Allah to obedience of Allah. So Hijra is not necessarily moving from place to place geographically. Hijra is moving from place to place psychologically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and in terms of our own actions. Moving from a place of disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to a place of obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is Hijra, and this Hijra is part of every single one of us. And that journey of Hijra starts with what? With Tawbah. The door to the journey of Hijra starts with Tawbah. Tawbah is to turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tawbah wal istighfar. And for me today, my personal goal in this lecture is to emphasize on this one instance, which is Tawbah wal istighfar, for us to make Hijra from the disobedience of Allah to the obedience of Allah. Alhamdulillah, if we achieve this, inshallah we are okay. Istighfar is to ask forgiveness, is to apologize for what we have been doing, and Tawbah is to turn around. Turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Tawbah is Istighfar. Tawbah has conditions, as you know. Second condition of tawbah is never to return to that action. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said it should be as hateful to you as being chopped into pieces. As hateful to you as being thrown into the fire. So never return to that action. And number three is, if the action that you are making tawbah for, if it was or if it is an action which involves the rights of people, if you are oppressing the rights of people, then it is part of the requirement of tawbah that you make amends, that you give back to people what you took from them. If you took property from them, return the property. If you did something with their honor, then you go and personally apologize to that person, give back whatever you could give back. That is much more difficult than giving back property, believe me. But to do that, to make the attempt to do that. The Sahaba asked Rasulullah, they said, Ya Rasulullah, what if we realized what we did with somebody, and by the time we realize that the person has died, what must we do then? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, if it is property, give it to the heirs of that person. And if it's a matter of his honor, then make tawbah and ask, make dua for the maghfirah of that person. And inshallah, Allah will accept the tawbah. So to make this tawbah and to move from a place of disobedience of Allah, as I said, that doesn't mean geographically this country or that country, it means a place within myself, a place in my life where I am disobeying Allah, and move to a place where I obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, a place you might be disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to be sleeping in the morning when you should be waking up for Salatul Fajr going to the masjid. So Hijra is to get up from that place and go to the masjid. This is Hijra. Inside yourself you make tawbah, Ya Allah, from tomorrow onwards I will make sure that I pray Salatul Fajr in the masjid, inshallah. Oh Allah, help me. Are you ready? Make this niyyah. There's no point in coming and listening and passively going away home. Think about and bring about those changes in your lives. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. You come, you just sit here and enjoy or something and go away. That's not an entertainment session. So make the niyyah. Those who do not pray in the masjid, make the niyyah that you will pray in the masjid from tomorrow morning, inshallah. Today, Isha is over. First salah that is up on us tomorrow morning, Salatul Fajr. Inshallah, we ask Allah to keep you alive and well and healthy in time for that salah. So we ask Allah to give us the tawfiq to pray Salatul Fajr in the masjid. Try to pray all 5 salawat in the masjid, because that is for all the men. If you can't pray 5 prayers, then yes, you can, but definitely make this niyyah that I will pray all the salawat, all the salat in the masjid, inshallah. Very good. So say inshallah, you will do this, inshallah. I can't hear you. Those of you who are not following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, make niyyah that you will start following the sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in your life. All aspects of sunnah. Yes, inshallah? Inshallah. Those of you who are involved in business transactions which are prohibited in Islam, make niyyah that you will get out of that at the first possible opportunity. And actually make the effort to do that. It's not just a matter of saying, I want to get on. Make the actual effort. Because my brothers and sisters, please understand this. If you are dealing in interest, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said on the day of judgment, the one who is dealing in interest, when he comes before the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the malaika will give him a sword in his hand and say, that is the one whose declaration of war you accepted, go and fight him. Seriously, do you want this? When we go before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment, do we want the forgiveness of Allah or you want to fight with Allah? What do you want to do? Tell me. Forgiveness, right? Who amongst you, including myself, who amongst us wants to land on the day of judgment and make war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Anybody? Seriously, we have to take this kalam of Allah seriously. I didn't make this up. Wallah, you know this. I didn't make this up. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not giving you my opinion. I am telling you what is in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Go look it up for yourself. that transaction, Allah has cursed all three. What can I do? It's not my problem. I didn't make up this deal. It's my job, however, to tell you honestly, with integrity, what I need to tell you. And I always tell people, if you are angry with me, please forgive me. I am ready to fall at your feet and apologize to you if I have hurt you. But if I am telling you something from the Kitab of Allah and from the teachings of Rasulullah and you are angry with me, that is your right, no problem with me. I will not stop saying it. Because I don't want you on the day of judgment to catch my neck and say you sat in that masjid and people said you are Shaykh so and so and you did not speak the truth. You lied and you cheated and you did not tell me the danger that I was in. I don't want that from you. And therefore, even at the risk of hurting you, offending you, I don't know why you should be hurt or offended if I am telling you something for good anyway, but just in case. I have to tell you the truth as I know it. So what is Hijra? Hijra is to get out from this. Hijra is to migrate from the fire of Jahannam into the garden of Jannah. How many people have got an objection to that? Anybody got a problem with that? That is what Hijra is. And this is the thing which was difficult for the people of Makkah. Just think about this. The people of Makkah had no problem believing in Allah. They were not atheists. They were not atheists. They were God-fearing people. They had no problem with believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by that name. They said Allah is the head God, chief of the gods. Whereas Islam says Allah is not head God, Allah is the only one worthy of worship. They said no, that part of it no. Head God, others are also there. We get to Him through them. So they had all these arguments. What was the issue which stuck in the crop? What was the issue that was tough for them to accept? The issue of life after death. We have a lecture tomorrow. No, it's tomorrow. Yeah. We have a lecture tomorrow on life after death. Inshallah, I will tell you what the details then, so I won't go into details now. But the point is that their issue was life after death. So, Abu Lahab comes to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He brought bone and he crumpled it like that in front of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And he said, Ya Muhammad, are you telling me that your Rabb is going to make this thing come alive? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, my Rabb will make that thing come alive and He will make you come alive and He will throw you in the fire, in the Jannah. That was the issue. The issue was consequence of deeds, accounting. I'm talking about Hijra. Why must we talk about Hijra? Why must I make Hijra? You must make Hijra, I must make Hijra because there is a day of accounting. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned these people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa qalu wa idha And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Jalla Jalaluhu, in His majestic command and in His majestic tone of the kalam of His greatness and magnificence, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Qul yatawaffakum." Say to them, you will die. Qul yatawaffakum. Say to them, you will die. Malakul Maut alladhi wukkila bikum. Malakul Maut has been set upon you. He has been designated, that is his job. ثُمَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكُمْ تُرْجَعُونَ. And he will bring you and to your Rabb is your return. Malakul Maut has been set for this. He will take your soul and he will bring you back. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to his Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَلَوْ تَرَىٰ إِذِ الْمُجْرِمُونَ نَاكِسُو رُءُوسِهِمْ عِندَ رَبِّهِمْ. He said, if you could see my Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you will see the mujrimeen, you will see the people who deny Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way possible. Please understand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say, وَلَوْ تَرَىٰ إِذِ الْمُشْرِكُونَ. He did not say, وَلَوْ تَرَىٰ إِذِ الْكَافِرُونَ. He said, وَلَوْ تَرَىٰ إِذِ الْمُجْرِمُونَ, which includes Muslims. May Allah protect us from that day. Allah said, you will see them. رُؤُوسِهِمْ عِندَ رَبِّهِمْ. نَاكِسُو رُؤُوسِهِمْ عِندَ رَبِّهِمْ. They will be standing before their Rabb, their heads hanging in shame. Their heads hanging in shame. And what will they say? رَبَّنَا أَبْصَرْنَا. O our Rabb, we have seen. وَسَمِعْنَا, and we have heard. فَارْجِعْنَا, send us back. نَعْمَلْ صَالِحًا إِنَّا مُوقِنُونَ, and we will do good deeds and we will become people who are obedient. But my brothers and sisters, the door is shut. The door is shut. Tomorrow I will tell you the details of how the door shuts and what happens. But the door is shut. It's a one-way street. Once you are gone out of that door, it doesn't open this way. It opens only one way. So what will they see? When they say, Absarna wa sami'na, we have seen and we have heard, what will they see? SubhanAllah, imagine this scene, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned this scene to us. That is how we know. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, you will see your Rabb on his arsh. And what is this arsh? How can we conceptualize the arsh? How can somebody like me even hope to describe for you the arsh? How can you and I even hope to understand what is the arsh? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he went in Mi'raj, he said the comparison of the first heaven to the second heaven. The first heaven to the second heaven is like a ring in a desert. There's a lecture of mine on cosmology in the Quran. It's on our YouTube channel. Take a look at it. When I was doing the research for that lesson, I wrote this hadith so many times. How the Prophet described it. Today, cosmologists actually use that terminology even though they don't know the hadith. They actually use that terminology when they're talking about the Milky Way and they're talking about the visible universe, as they call it. And that's a different topic altogether. I won't go into that now, but it's amazing. It will just blow your mind away. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said the first heaven compared to the second heaven is like a ring in a desert. Imagine a ring, you throw it in the desert. What is the comparison of that ring to the whole desert? The first heaven to the second heaven is like a ring in a desert. The second to the third is like a ring in the desert. The third to the fourth is like a ring in the desert. The fourth to the fifth is like a ring in the desert. The fifth to the sixth is like a ring in the desert. The sixth to the seventh is like a ring in the desert. And above that is the kursi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and above that is the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can we conceptualize this? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said there are 4 malaika called Hamali al-Arsh who are holding the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said this is such a massive makhluq of Allah. He said I cannot describe for you what that farishta, what that malak, what that angel looks looks like, but he said, I can tell you that that angel is so big and massive that if a bird takes off from its shoulder, that bird will fly fast for 500 years before it reaches the earlobe of that angel, this distance. And on the day of judgment, Rasulullah said, and this ayat is also in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create 4 more such angels. Because the jalal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be such that the 4 angels will not be able to hold the arsh of Allah. So Allah will have 8 angels holding up the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created these angels and He gave them the arsh to hold, they started sinking, they couldn't hold. Their entire collective force and power could not hold the arsh of Allah. Until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired into their hearts and they said, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And the arsh held it. The angel does not carry the arsh of Allah by his strength. The angel carries the arsh of Allah bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So what will they see? On the day of judgment, those who stand, and may Allah not make us among them. May Allah save us from that. May Allah make us among those who will have the shade of this arsh on that day. Allahumma adil lana tahta arshuk yawma la dhilla illa dhilluk. Oh Allah, give us the shade of your arsh on the day when there will be no shade except your shade. But those who will not have that shade, those who will live their lives in disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who accepted declarations of war from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and who died in that state without making tawbah, they will stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that day. This is what they will see. This is what you and I will also see. We ask Allah to show us this with khair, with His rahmah, with His maghfirat, from the shade of the arsh. But the others will see this glory and magnificence. They will see angels, row upon row upon row of angels, thousands and millions. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the others of His angels. He knows how many there are. They will see humanity in a state of complete and total helplessness. Totally. Today we have people who have power, we have people who have armies, we have people who have wealth, and people who live in this world as if they own the world. People who are blind to even the history of our own people. And we know that where today I am standing or I am sitting as the king or the president or the head of a large organization or a wealthy person, there was somebody else who was sitting in my place and today he is 6 feet in the ground. We forget this. All such people will be standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without their armies, without their money, without anything, without even the clothes of the body. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said on the day of judgment, there will be nobody who will have clothes. People will be naked before Allah. Aisha said, Ya Rasulullah, how will we all be naked? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, nobody will have this sense to look at another person. The fear, the haibat, the wahshat, the terror of the day of judgment will be such that people will have no understanding, no sense of who is next to me, what is happening, what is not happening. The only thing that they will be concerned about is what will happen to me. Nafsi, nafsi, my life, my life. What will happen to me? Not to my father, not to my mother, not to my children. My father, mother, children have no meaning on the day of judgment. They don't even have meaning here in this world. Tomorrow you will see when I talk to you what happens to the father, mother and children when you die. On the day of judgment, they will see this. وَلَوْ تَرَى إِذِ الْمُجْرِمُونَ نَاكِسُوا رُءُوسِهِمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. And what will they say? رَبَّنَا أَبْصَرْنَا وَاللَّهِ we have seen, وَسَمِعْنَا we have heard whatever is happening here on the day of judgment. فَارْجِعْنَا نَعْمَلْ صَالِحًا إِنَّا مُوقِنُونَ. Send us back and we will become obedient people. My brothers and sisters, I remind myself and you, that day there is no return. That day there is no return. The time to make Hijra is now. The time to make Hijra is now. Do not sleep tonight before you make tawbah. May Allah give you the tawfiq and may Allah give you the strength. Do not sleep tonight without making tawbah. Make tawbah. Count the number of ways in which you are disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Count the number Yes or no? Inshallah. Now the Hijra of Rasulullah, there are three major lessons. The beauty of the life of Rasulullah is that there are lessons and more lessons and more lessons in every aspect of his life. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Allah said, verily, for you the best example is the example of the life of my Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Which part of his life? His entire life. Allah did not say the best example for you is the ibadat of my Nabi. He did not say the best example for you is the domestic and home life of my Nabi. No. Blanket statement. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. His beautiful life, his uswa hasana, is the best example for you. And for whom? لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. The one who looks forward to the meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who looks forward to the day of judgment. This is a description of the person who dies with Iman. He says, Allah, bring the day of judgment quickly. Unite me with my people, with my family. Oh Allah, I want to meet you. Take me, I want to meet you. That is the description. Abdullah bin Mubarak, rahmatullahi alayhi, one of the greatest of the ulama of this ummah, he narrates a beautiful story. I am talking about such people who look forward to the meeting with Allah. Remember, who looks forward to a meeting? The person who expects something good to happen in that meeting, right? You never look forward to a meeting in which you are likely to be in trouble. So look forward to a meeting means a meeting in which we expect goodness. And how who will expect goodness? Somebody who has been doing something about it. So if we are living our lives in a way which is obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we make tawbah, if we turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah then we have a right to expect the best from our Rabb Jalla Jalla. So Abdullah bin Mubarak mentioned this beautiful story. He said, I came to Makkah at a time when there was a drought in Makkah. And people were undergoing a lot of hardship. And he said people were praying Salatul Istisqa in the Haram. So Abdullah Mubarak said, I came and I joined the Salah. And he said, as I was standing, I saw next to me was a young black boy, African boy. And this boy was dressed only in two garments. He had a piece of sacking around his waist, a piece of burlap around his waist, and he had another piece of burlap thrown over his shoulder. And he said, Abdullah Mubarak said, the Salatul Istisqa happened, and then I stood by this boy, and this boy made dua. By himself, he's making dua. He says, he raised his hand and he said, Oh Allah. He said, Oh Allah, Anta al-Halim al-Kareem. He said, Oh Allah, you are the one with the greatest of patience. He said, Oh Allah, you are the one about whom we know nothing but good. He said, Oh Allah, you have withheld rain to discipline your slaves who have been transgressing. He said, Oh Allah, look at their faces are strained with the stress of sin. But he says, Oh Allah, you are the one who has patience like nobody else has patience. And he says, Oh Allah, send us rain now. Send rain now. Send rain now. And Abdullah Mubarak said, he kept on saying, send rain now. Send rain now. He kept on saying this until the clouds came into the heavens and it rained. Right there. And he said the boy sat down and he got involved in dhikr. Abdullah Mubarak said, when he finished and he was leaving, I followed him and I marked his house, which house he went into. And he said, then I went back to my companions. Who were his companions? Hudayl bin Ayas and Sufyan al-Thawri, rahmatullahi alayhi. What kind of times must those have been in? When who is bigger and better than who has more amal and who has more knowledge. And each one is a mountain of of knowledge of Islam and a mountain of Nur in himself. So when he went to Fudail bin Iyad, he said to him, he said, I told Fudail this story. Fudail said, take me to the boy. Why are you here by yourself? Take me to him. I want to meet this boy. So Abdullah Mubarak, he said, I told Fudail to wait. Next morning, he said, I went for Salatul Fajr to the Haram. And after Salah, I went to the house and I knocked on the door. He said, an elderly man opened the door. And he said, he recognized me and he said, Assalamu alaikum ya Abu Rahman. He recognized me, he honored me. And he said, you have honored me by coming to my house, what can I do for you? So Abdullah Mubarak said, give me, I have come for a boy. Meaning I have come to buy a slave to serve as a servant. So he said, the old man called. And he said, a young man came, African guy, big and powerful. Abdullah Mubarak said, not this one. So he called again, and he called again, and he called again until this boy came out. So Abdullah Mubarak said, I want this boy. So the old man said, why are you asking for this boy? He said, I don't want to sell this boy. He said, this boy is like a son to me. And he brings barakah in this house. And he costs me nothing. He makes some food, he sells it in the market. The day he can't sell it, he eats it himself. It costs me nothing. And he is constantly engaged in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is very beautiful. He is somebody who brings barakah to me. So I won't sell. So Abdullah Mubarak said, I was determined. So he said, I used clout. He said, do you want me to go back to Fudail bin Iyad and Sufyan al-Thawri and say that you refuse to give a servant for them? So the old man said, no. He said, you have come to my house, you have honored me, take the money. Pay me whatever you want to pay. So Abdullah Mubarak was going. On the way, they came to a masjid. And the boy said to him, oh my master. Abdullah Mubarak said, I turned to him and I said, don't call me master. He said, you are my master. He said, I am your servant. So he said, the boy said, no, don't say this. It is not correct. I am your slave. It is inappropriate for you to say that you are my servant. Abdullah Mubarak said, no, I am your servant. He said, you are not my slave. He said, I have given you freedom. I have released you. He said, I am going to build a house for you. I will get you married. And I will spend the rest of my life as your servant. Who is saying this? Abdullah ibn Mubarak. The boy said, he said, you have seen something. He said, tell me, what did you see in me? What is? He said, you are not saying this, right? You are saying this. He said, I don't want to hear this from you, but you are saying that you have seen something. What did you see? Abdullah Mubarak said, on that day, when you were making yesterday, Salatul Istisqa, he said, I was standing next to you, I heard your talk. So the boy said, then he said, I have a favor to ask you. He said, will you allow me, I have some rakat left over from yesterday which I need to pray. He said, will you allow me to pray that in this masjid? Abdullah Mubarak said, the house of Fudail bin Iyad is just down part of the corner. The boy said, no, this is more appropriate to pray in the masjid. So Abdullah Mubarak said, I told him, yes, it's okay. He said, the boy went inside, he prayed his rakat, and then he asked me, he said, yeah, Abu Rahman, is there anything you need from me? So Abdullah Mubarak said, I want you to come with me to this beautiful company of Fudail bin Iyad and Sufyan al-Thawri, and I want you to be part of this beautiful company. The boy said, yeah, Abu Rahman, the most beautiful company is the company of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, there is no company that is more beautiful than the company of your and my Lord. And he said, the problem is today you have found out. He said, this is good for you because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows His slaves to those He loves. He said, but today you have found out, or somebody else will find out, my peace is gone. He said, my company is my heart is company. Abdullah Baig said, the boy went to sujood, and he said, Ya Allah, I want to meet you now. I want to meet you now. And Abdullah Baig said, by the time I got up, I went to me as well. By the time I went to meet him, he was gone. Yabdullah wal yawm wa dhakara Allah kathira. To the world, he was a young black African boy with nothing, with a burqa sack around his waist, no wealth, no power, nothing. But in the eyes of Allah, he was somebody who Abdullah ibn Mubarak recognized. He recognized his reality. He recognized who the boy was. The power of Hijra, from disobedience to obedience. So as I told you, there are three critical lessons to learn in the Hijra of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The first and foremost lesson to learn in the Hijra of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the willingness to do whatever it takes to achieve the goal of the mission. Please understand this. Today, we very easily go from place to place. We cannot be board of flight, we go from this country to that country. Everything very easy. We really have no affiliations with anyone. We don't even need affiliations. We live in a different world. Even our own families, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Some of us are disconnected with our own families. But with the Arabs and the tribal society of the 5th century, the tribe was everything. The Arabs had a saying, which Rasulullah actually used the same saying in a different context to teach people a lesson. The Arabs used to have a saying, support your brother whether he is right or wrong. They're saying what? Support your brother whether he is right or wrong. Because support of your brother was everything. You did not give up your brother to somebody else. You did not say anything against your own brother. That was a big no. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used the same saying many years later. He said to the Sahaba, he said, support your brother whether he is right or wrong. And the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, we will support our brother if he is right, but how do we support him if he is wrong? He said, support him when he is wrong by correcting him, because if you do not correct him, the punishment that Allah will give him is much worse. So support your brother when he is wrong by correcting him. This was the teaching of Mirza Yawar Baig when he used to draw the attention of people to what he wanted to say by saying something which got their attention. So in a tribal society, among the Arabs, it was completely unthinkable to eject somebody from the tribe. And they never did that. Even if a person committed murder, maybe they would sentence him to lashing or something, or he had to, if required, he would be executed, but he would not be thrown out of the tribe. Because to throw somebody out of the tribe was a death sentence. A person without a tribe was open season for everyone. Anyone could do anything to him because he had no protection from anyone. So when we are looking at the migration of Rasulullah from Makkah to Medina, we must understand the context of the migration. It wasn't simply getting into a bus and going from Makkah to Medina. It was not even walking. He walked till he get to a bus. But I'm saying it was not just a matter of going from point A to point B. So what's the big deal? It's not. It is coming out of his tribe. When he migrated from Makkah crime was that he said, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. That was his crime. So Rasulullah was ejected from his tribe. Now this ejection, as I said, this ejection from the tribe is a very major issue. Why did he accept it? Why did he not compromise? So the first lesson is, if you want to succeed, you have to be prepared to do whatever it takes, without any barriers, without any hesitation. Many years later, when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was asking for support for the Ghazwa of Tabuk, we know the famous story. Umar bin Khattab came with half his wealth and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I will give half my wealth for this. I have kept the other half of my family. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam accepted. Abu Bakr Siddiq comes with a small bundle and he puts it on top of him. And he is dressed in burlap sacking cloth. He is wearing a poncho which is secured on the sides with thorns, and he is wearing a burlap lungi kind of thing, around his waist. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Ya Abu Bakr, what is this? He said, Ya Rasulullah, this is whatever I have. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, what have you left for your family? He said, for my family, Allah and His Nabi are sufficient. Everything they had. And what was the result of this? Jibreel alayhi salam comes and says, Ya Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent this salam on your friend Abu Bakr. And Allah is asking Abu Bakr whether Abu Bakr is pleased with Allah. Allah is asking if Abu Bakr is pleased with him. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Ya Abu Bakr, Jibreel is here, he says salam to you, and he brings the salam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on you, and he says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to know whether you are pleased with him. Abu Bakr Siddiq started meaning, he said, Allah wants to know if I am pleased with him. He said, how can I not be pleased with my Rabb? And then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam looked at Jibreel alayhi salam and he saw Jibreel, the chief of the Malaika, whose glory is such that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saw him in his original form. He stretched across the horizon from east to west. His wings, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said he has 700 wings. That Jibreel is dressed in a burlap sack. He is dressed in a sack, sacking around his waist. He is wearing a burlap sack poncho secured with thorns. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Jibreel, what kind of clothing is this? Jibreel said, Ya Rasulullah, he is not only me. He said, your Rabb has ordered all of us. Who are all of us? The Malaika in the heavens. He said, your Rabb likes the dress of your friend Abu Bakr so much that he has ordered all of us to dress like Abu Bakr. And today we are all dressed like this. The power of Hijra. Do whatever it takes. Not holding back anything. No half measures, no quarter measures, complete commitment. This is the first lesson of Hijra. I can sit here and talk all night. I'm not going to do that. Have no fear. First lesson, complete commitment. How many good schemes, how many brilliant ideas, how many things which are absolutely critically essential for this ummah do not happen because we do not fully commit. We commit, but we don't fully commit. The reality is, if you are jumping over a trench, if you jump 99.999% of the space, you are still falling into the jump 9.999 feet, you are still inside the trench. You still have to clear it. And that's the reality. That is the reality. You jump across the whole, you want to jump the whole distance. If you don't jump the whole distance, you still fall into the hole. Then, oh, okay, then you can say, well, I tried my best. Sure, you tried your best. No, nobody said you're not standing on this side. You did try your best, but you have to fail because you did not do what was required. Complete commitment, irrespective of what it takes. First lesson. Second lesson of the Hijra is the importance of preparation. The importance of preparation. You must put a clock in this masjid on this side, I think. Right? There's a clock on this wall pillar here, which I can see when I am making khutbah, but okay, we have time. So, the issue of preparation. Once again, one of our problems today with the Sunnah is that we have good goals, we have good ideas, but we do not prepare enough. We think Josh is enough for Hosh. It is not. Enthusiasm is not a substitute for strategy. Please understand this very clearly. Enthusiasm, even bravery, is not a substitute for strategy. If you don't believe me, go on YouTube and see some of the battles, some of the great battles. See the battle of the English forces against the Zulus in Africa. You have a scene of less than 100 British troops, and remember they are firing muzzle loaders, they are not firing machine guns. Even the Gatling gun hadn't been invented until then. They are firing muzzle loaders, so it takes, after one shot, you got to, fill the thing again and ram it and all that and then fire it. And there are more than 100,000 Zulus. Brave people, passionate people, fighting for their land. The English are the invaders, but what do you see in that battle? You see the Zulus come with great force, great enthusiasm, great bravery. But you see the British soldiers, they stand in the line and they have a drill. The first line fires, takes a step backward, second line fires, takes a step backward. By the time the first line is ready, they fire, take a step backward, and they're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. 100,000 Zulus more down. Why? Because they have a strategy. They have a strategy. Preparation. Rasulullah didn't just get up one day and start walking. No. He prepared. First he prepared the place of reception. Where I am going, is that the right place to go? Is there anyone there who will welcome me? Will I have a support base if I go to this place called Yathrib? Preparation. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went to Mina post Hajj. He went from tent to tent, and all of this takes a long time to narrate. I am not going into the details of the story, just quickly. Until he identified some people, there were 7 or 12 people in the first instance. Next year they promised to come from Yathrib, and the next year when they came, there were about 70 odd of them. One of them, so in the preparation, Rasulullah, he met people in Mina when they came for Hajj, and he identified the people of Yathrib who welcomed him. So the first year there were a few of them, next year they decided to come, about 70 of them came. And they participated in what is called Baytul Aqaba. Now this is narrated in the Sirah by Ka'b bin Malik, who was a young man, he was a boy at the time. And Ka'b bin Malik said that we came in ones and twos because we didn't want the Quraysh to know we are gathering in the night. And there was this place, we and we gathered. And he says, when we were all collected in the room, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came there with his uncle Al-Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib. Al-Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib at that time had already accepted Islam for Ra'al, but definitely he was a supporter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he said, when they came, he said, Al-Abbas first spoke. And he said to the people, he said, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is with his family in Makkah. We are his protectors, we will support him and we will continue to support him as long as we can support him. So he is not in personal danger and he is not without friends. You have now come here and you want to invite him to go with you to Medina. If you are intending to take him there and abandon him and go away, don't take him, he is well where he is. If you are going to take him and support him and protect him, then you can take him. This is what Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib said in that meeting. So Ka'b bin Malik said, our leader stood up and he said, Ya Rasulullah, we want to hear you speak. Tell us what do you want from us. And subhanAllah, this has to be one of the most remarkable speeches that anyone ever made in the history of mankind. It's an amazing speech, and it's a speech that according to me is completely unreasonable. And when I tell you what the speech is, I'm sure you will agree with me. But see the result. So they said, we want to hear you speak. Tell us what do you want from us. Now see the situation. Here is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is a man with an idea. That's it. He has no money. He has no military power, he has no administrative power, he has no state behind him, he's got no nothing. He is a man with an idea. For his idea to work, he needs money. He needs protection because his idea is dynamite. So when that idea comes alive, that idea is going to attract enemies like a magnet attracts and violence. So the idea is going to put people into conflict with one another, so he needs protection. It's a very dangerous idea. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah was a very dangerous idea. So he's a man with an idea and he needs support. Now if you were advising the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if I was advising, I do management consulting, I do corporate training, I advise business promoters and families in succession planning and so on and so forth. So this is my work, this is what I do. That's how I earn my living. So if I was advising him and if he asked me, how do you think I should approach this? I thought about it very late. I thought to myself, what better? What would any counselor, what would any advisor tell somebody in that situation? You would say, take it easy. Say, take it easy. Don't ruffle any feathers. You need these people. Be nice to them. Don't push them. Don't be hard on them. Don't make unreasonable demands on them. They also have families. They also have other priorities. Yes or no? This is what anyone would say, this is what I would say. But what did the Prophet ﷺ tell them when they asked him, what do you want from us? Among the many proofs that Rasulullah ﷺ was the recipient of Wahi. Wahi ghayr matlub, which is not in the Quran, which we know as the Hadith. Many evidences, this is one. Because no one but nobody, unless that person is listening to another voice in his head, will say what the Prophet ﷺ said. Because what he said, and I will let you decide, you tell me whether it sounds, whether it makes sense. You tell me whether it seems reasonable. Rasulullah ﷺ stood up and he said, I want you to promise that you will obey me no matter what I tell you, whether you like it or not, whether you understand what I am saying, the reason for it or not, whether you agree with what I am saying or not. I want you to promise that you will obey me. Then he says, I want you to protect me. Now he is not saying that because he is afraid. Protect me means protect the dawah of Islam. He says, I want you to promise that you will protect me like you protect your own wives and children. Meaning what? Meaning that if it is required for you to put your life on the line, you will put your life on the line. If it requires for you to take a bullet for me, you will take a bullet. If it requires for you to die for my protection, then you will die. I want you to promise that you will protect me like you protect your own wives and children. And third thing he says, I want you to promise that when I ask you to give, you will give in times of plenty and you will give when you have nothing. Tell me, is this reasonable? Does it make sense? If I was listening, I would say, absolutely, you just blew it, man. You just blew this thing. I mean, these are the people you need. All you have is an idea. These are the people you need, and you make these demands. I mean, this is gone. This is finished. This is finished. You just lost all your support. This is what I would tell you. But I would tell you because I am jahil. Because I don't understand Wahi, and I don't understand the Ansar and one by, and you know what they did? Ajib, the words of Rasulullah are not reasonable. The words of the Ansar are even more unreasonable. The man stands up and he says, Ya Rasulullah, if we give you whatever you said, what will we get? And the Prophet answered with one word. He says, Jannah. He says, Jannah. And Ka'b bin Malik said, the Ansar said, what a bargain. They said, Subhanallah, what a bargain. Ajib. Crazy people. I always say today our problem is we do not have enough crazy people in this deen. We got too many great thinkers and too many philosophers and too many reasonable people. You need people with passion. You need people with the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their hearts. You need people who will give everything because only then will you succeed. You need people who will jump across that pit completely, not 90%, not 99% because you're still inside the pit. He makes this demand and they said, what a bargain. Jannah. We give our lives, all our lives, all our wealth. We obey you no matter what you say and you are good. And for this we are going to get Jannah. Oh, subhanAllah. Brilliant. Fantastic game. Preparation. And Allah knows, and Allah is witness. The Sahaba, the Ansar lived by this. They lived by this. Many years later, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is sitting in the masjid and a young boy comes and he's weeping, he's crying. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam knew the boy was yatim. And we know how Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam loved children, how he was particularly affectionate with people who were yatim because he himself was yatim. So he called him, he said, why are you crying? He said, Ya Rasulullah, I've got a problem. My father left a small date garden for me. And he says, I want to put a wall around it, but there is a tree in that line of the wall which belongs to the man who has a date garden next to mine. And that man is also Muslim. So this boy says, I asked the man, I said, can you allow me to build a wall around the tree? The man said, no. He said, I told him, I said, can you sell the tree to me? So I cut the tree and I put the wall through that place. He said, I will not sell it, it's my tree. So he said, I don't know what can I do. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam called the man. The man came. I am talking about the Ansar and their belief in Jannah. The man came. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, why don't you give the boy this thing? He said, Ya Rasulullah, father, justice. It is mine. I can sell or I need not sell. It is my right. I am not going to sell. So Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said to him, he said, okay, do this. He said, sell me that tree. Sell that tree to me. And in exchange for this tree, I will give you a tree in Jannah. Yeah? In exchange for this tree, I will give you a tree in Jannah. What is the meaning of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saying, I will give you a tree in Jannah? What does it mean? Does it mean that you will be in Jannah and you will tell the people around, you know what, I know I have a tree in Jannah? Is that going to happen? No. I will give you a tree in Jannah means it is Bashara for Jannah for that man. That you, the Jannah is yours because you and your tree will be in Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from ourselves. The man said, Ya Rasulullah, I am not selling. And he left. Muslim man. Now while this was happening, there was one of the Sahaba of Rasulullah sitting in the Masjid Al Othman, and his name is Abu Dahda al-Ansari. Not Abu Dahda, there was another Sahaba of the. This is Abu Dahda al-Ansari. He was sitting in the corner, listening to the whole thing happening, watching this conversation. As soon as that man left, Abu Dahda came to Mirza Yawar and he said, Ya Rasulullah, how about I buy the tree for you? He said, if I buy the tree for you, will you give me the same thing which you told this man? Same deal. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, yes, same deal. So Abu Dahda went behind this man. And he caught up with the man in the market of Medina. And he said to the man, he said, do you know who I am? I said, of course I know who you are. He said, who am I? What do you know about me? So the man said, what kind of thing is this? You playing some game or something? Of course I know who you are. What do you mean? No. He said, the reason I'm asking, what do you know about me? So now, by now, some people have collected what is this strange conversation. Because they know, everyone knows that. Each of them know each other and so on. So what is the conversation? So the man said, do you know me? He said, yes, I know you. He said, what do you know about me? He said, you are Abu Dahda. And you are the owner of the most valuable date palm plantation in Medina. Your date palm plantation has 600 bearing trees. It has a house and it has a well of sweet water. So Abu Dahda said to him, he said, I have a proposal for you. So the man said, what proposal? He said, sell me that tree which Rasulullah asked you for. The man said, I didn't sell the tree to the Prophet, why will I sell it? He said, I did not sell the tree to Rasulullah, why will I sell it to you? Abu Dahda said, no, hold on, listen to my whole proposal. He said, sell me the tree in exchange for my 600 trees. Sell me that one tree in exchange for my whole garden. So the man said, you are not so crazy, what are you talking about? Abu Dahda said, no, I'm telling you a serious proposition. Your one tree for my whole garden. The man said, are you serious? You are going to give me a whole garden, well, house, everything in exchange for that one tree? Abu Dahda said, yes. The man said, are you serious? Abu Dahda said, absolutely serious. All these people are witness. If you agree, this is the deal. Done. The man said, sold. He said, take it. The tree is yours. Abu Dahda al-Ansari went to his garden. He stood outside the gate and he called his wife, Ya Abu Dahda. She came out of the house. She said, come, bring the children and leave. She said, why? He said, because I just sold this garden. She said, to whom? He said, to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The woman said, for how much? He said, one tree in Jannah. The woman said, what a bargain. Alhamdulillah, what a bargain. Crazy people. Crazy people. She said, what a bargain. She just lost the house, man. The man just sold her house. The man your Lord showed me your Jannah. And he said, your Lord has planted, has filled your Jannah with trees. He said, not one, filled with trees. I'm talking about preparation, I'm talking about the ansar, I'm talking about what Rasulullah did with regard to the Hijra. Getting the right people with you. Getting the right people with you. Nabi Sallallahu was ready to give up everything and he gave up everything. But he also got a bunch of people who were prepared to do the same. So they had this meeting in Aqaba. Nabi Sallallahu promised to come the next year. In the meanwhile, he sent Mirza Yawar Baig as his ambassador, and there are so many stories about Mirza Yawar and so on. I am not going to go into the details of that just now. And then Rasulullah made preparation for his actual journey. He was ordering some things in Amman. He gave them to Ali bin Abi Talib and said, return this to whoever they belong to. And then he picked a travel companion. Who did he pick? Abu Bakr Siddiq. Not just anybody. He picked that one man who he trusted above anybody else. Rasulullah said, if I could take a Khalil, he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken me as his Khalil. But he said, if I could take a Khalil, I would take Abu Bakr. Sayyida Aisha Siddiqa says that it was a very hot day, and in the afternoon when generally people are sleeping in the siesta, she said, we saw a man coming towards our house and he was all wrapped up. And when he came close, we saw that it was Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She said, he entered our house and he said to my father, I need to talk to you, send away your family. She said, my father said, Ya Rasulullah, my family is your family. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam accepted that and they were all in the same room. And he said to Abu Bakr Siddiq, he said, I have been given the command to migrate, to make Hijra, and I have chosen you as my companion. Then Aisha says, my father started weeping. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, I knew this was going to happen. Alhamdulillah that you chose me as your companion. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, get 2 camels ready. Abu Bakr Siddiq said, Ya Rasulullah, the camels are already ready. I have prepared for it. He said, I will pay you for the camels. He said, Ya Rasulullah, whatever you like. If you want to pay me, I will take the money. If you don't want to pay me, it is my gift. This is incidentally one of the usul of a host to the guest. Do what is good for the guest, not impose your will on the guest. The guest comes, please you must have lunch. The guest says, I have already eaten. No, you have to have lunch. How can you not have lunch in my house? But I have already eaten, I have got only one stomach. No, you have to eat. Even if you die here, but eat. This is our way of being hosts. Zahmat on the guest. Abu Bakr Siddiq said, whatever you like. You want to pay, you don't want to pay, no problem. So that was the plan. And of course, that the whole journey and so on, I won't go into the details of that. But first lesson, commit completely and totally. Second lesson, prepare. Prepare the ground by getting the kind of people you need. Prepare the ground by taking the kind of companions you need. Travel arrangements and so on and so on. And then Ruju Allah. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam then made dua. Third lesson and final for us before we close is what he did when he reached Medina. When Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam reached Medina, he didn't build a house. He had no house there, but he didn't do that. That was not the first thing he did. When he reached Medina, he did Number one, he built a masjid. Because the masjid is the center of the Muslim society. It is the heart of the Ummah. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, the barakah and rahmah of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala descends on the masjid, and from the masjid it goes to the people. So the masjid is the center of the community. The masjid is where the Muslims gather for any significant thing. It's not only for 2 rakat of salah. The masjid is the place of gathering for anything significant in the life of the Muslims. If there is a tragedy, they gather in the masjid. If there is for a wedding, for example, they do the nikah in the masjid. To gather, to discuss something, any matter of importance, they gather in the masjid. To learn, to study, they gather in the masjid. The masjid is a place of gathering. So the first thing that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did was, he built the masjid. The second thing he did was, he built the ummah. He joined the hearts of people together. He paired up one Ansari with one Muhajir. And he called them brothers. It was a brotherhood of faith, not a brotherhood of tribe, not a brotherhood of color, not a brotherhood of family. It was a brotherhood of faith which transcends and supersedes all these other ways of relating. We are the brothers of each other not because we are Kuwaitis or Indians or Pakistanis or Arabs or Africans or Americans. We are the brothers of each other because we are Muslims. This language of togetherness, today this is the biggest fitna in this world. People all talk the language of division. All talk the language of division. For all kinds of reasons we talk the language of division. We find little bits and pieces. Masail of Quran. We don't look to see whether the person is praying or not praying. We look to see whether he is raising his hand in the toilet or not raising his hand in the toilet. Wallahi, where does it end? Where does this thing end? You can't pray behind him because he is raising his hands. Or you can't pray behind him because he is not raising his hands. We don't worry about the fact he is praying. In today's world, if somebody is making salah, we should make 2 rakat of salah, thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The person is making salah. Language of togetherness. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam joined people together. And if you see the list of who was whose brother, Salman al-Farsi, a Persian, was made the brother of Abu Darda al-Ansari, an Arab. What is the link between Persia and Arab? Nothing. Between Persia and Arab, you got this Gulf. If you are on this side of the Gulf, what do you call it? Arabian Gulf. Cross the Gulf, call it Arabian Gulf and see what they will do. It's a Persian Gulf. So which Gulf is it? It's a Gulf between Arabia and Persia. That is the Gulf. The Gulf between two Muslim nations. We can agree on this one. But Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made a Persian the brother of an Arab. What kind of brotherhood was it? I will tell you. Salman Farsi comes home one day and he finds the wife of Abu Darda, and this is before the hijab and so on came. And the wife of Abu Darda, she was in a sort of disabled state. I mean, maybe her hair wasn't combed, whatever it was. So Salman al-Farsi, imagine this is the level of brotherhood. Imagine how they love one another, how they respect one another. Salman al-Farsi says to the wife of Abu Darda, he says, what's wrong with you? Why are you looking like this? You should take care of yourself. Can you imagine, can you go and say that to your own brother's wife? If there is a need. We don't even have this closeness with our own blood relatives. The Sahaba had this closeness between themselves. So he says to her, why don't you take care of yourself? So Madonna says, your brother is not interested in me anymore. He prays all night and he fasts all day and he is not interested in me as a wife. So I take care of myself for what? lunchtime, Abu Darda comes and he brings the food for Salman Farsi to eat. Salman Farsi says to Abu Darda, sit down and eat with me. So Abu Darda says, I'm fasting. He said, I don't care, you sit and eat, break your fast. It's not Ramadan or something, break it. He said, I'm fasting. He said, I don't care, sit and eat with me, break your fast. So Abu Darda breaks his fast and he eats with him. And then in the night, now they are lying down to sleep. And Abu Darda gets up. Salman Farsi says, where are you going? He said, I'm going to make wudu to pray. He said, no, sleep. So Abu Darda said, I'm going to pray. He said, no, sleep. So Abu Darda, obviously, this is like oppression. You know? This man is in my house and he makes me break my fast and I want to pray. And he's stopping me from praying. So anyway, he lies down to sleep. After some time, after about an hour, maybe he thought Salman Farsi is sleeping. So he gets up, Salman Farsi said, where are you going? He said, I'm going to make wudu to pray tahajjud. He said, no, sleep. He said, what? He said, go to sleep. So he makes him sleep. And then last third part of the night, Salman Farsi wakes him up. They both go make wudu and they both pray tahajjud. And then in the morning they go to the masjid for Salatul Fajr. Now obviously Abu Darda al-Ansari has got it up to here. He's sick and tired of this oppression. So the first thing he does, the Muslim's practice, after Salatul Fajr, he would turn around and he would sit and he would ask people, has anyone seen a dream? And then he would got a question and so on. He would give some reminders, some Islam, some Nasiyah. Abu Darda said, Ya Rasul, I've got a complaint. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what is the complaint? He said, this brother of mine, Salman al-Farsi, he is oppressing me. He said, how is he oppressing you? He said, when I was fasting, he makes me break my fast. And he doesn't let me fast. He says, and then when I'm trying to pray in the night, he doesn't let me pray, he makes me sleep. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, why is he doing that? What did he tell you? So Abu Darda al-Ansari said, my brother Salman tells me, your Rabb has a right on you, your wife has a right on you, your body has a right on you. Give each one their right. This is what he said. Rasulullah said, your brother Salman spoke the truth. Do that. This is the level of brotherhood. So Nabi Sallallahu built the masjid. He created this brotherhood of faith. And then of course the rest of the history and so on and so forth. I won't go into that. I think I have taken enough of your time. We have mentioned the issues of Hijra. What are the three critical lessons? And before that we talked about the importance of Hijra in our own lives. This is not a history session. This is not a storytelling session. We are not talking about those good old days back then. And then we all say, oh mashallah, what are the people and we go home. No. We are talking about how does that apply to my life and your life right now. And that is why I want to reiterate with great respect to all of you that do not leave this place, do not go to sleep tonight without bringing about a change in your life, without making hijrah from a place of disobedience to a place of obedience in our own lives. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we do that, to make that easy for us. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ajr for that and to give you the ajr for making this hijrah like He gave the ajr to the Sahaba for making hijrah from Makkah to Medina. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for you to bring about this change in your life. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fill your life with His nur and His barakah. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove all your difficulties from you. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure any illnesses that you might have. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to settle any debts that you have. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove all fears from your life. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with you and never to be displeased with you, and to decree that you and all your mutallaqeen and all your families are